Hey, what's up, Will? Um, I'm making another video kind of soon, so I might have to schedule this one to come out on a different day because I don't like having back-to-back videos. I really don't, because inevitably I'm going to go through times where, I have to go weeks without making videos, so it kind of looks weird, to have some periods of my life where it's like bam, 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 video, video, video. And then, other times it's like I hardly ever make any because I'm with my mom, which is where I would be permanently if I had anything to do with my life. You know what I'm saying? If I could choose how my life would be, I would be with my mom permanently for the rest of her life. And so, you know, like in this video, well, I want to talk about a number of things. First of all, we're in a very annoying time of year. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite time of year, but yeah, I'd have to say, well, the summer is my least favorite time of year. I definitely hate summer, because I'm going to another age in my life, you know what I'm saying? Because I have my birthday in the summer, that's why I hate it so much. I'm gonna be X plus 1 years old. So naturally I hate summer the most, and because it's just hot continuously, like you have no choice but hot weather in the summer. The rest of the year you have somewhat of a choice, but summertime is just hot throughout the summer, and the only good thing is that it's predictable. But this is my second least favorite time of year, the springtime, in that we're going into summer. It's a very annoying time of year wherein it's like you pretty much have to wear a short sleeve t-shirt and keep a jacket on hand at all times, because you still have the possibility for cold weather, or at least cool weather, through early May. But, the chances of it being cold enough to need those thick, heavy jogging suits all day long, you can pretty much put those away and, just wear a jacket and some regular clothes. So anyway, enough about the weather. There's a number of things that I'd like to talk about in this video. Sorry about, well, if you don't like my singing video, I cannot help it that my voice isn't better. I just can't help it, because your voice is largely an immutable physical characteristic, and there's only so much you can do if you don't sound good, especially at my age. I mean, yeah, I could sing songs that are more compatible with my voice, but chances of me liking the lyrics aren't good. So, one thing I will not tolerate is people putting down my voice in the comment section, because, as I stated before, I can't do anything about it. That's like making fun of my skin tone or something. So yeah, what I want to talk about in this video, I want to do a couple of things. Oh, and finally, I have a fire extinguisher. I wasn't going to talk about that because I didn't think I had time. But they had a fire extinguisher in this house, and it turns out all I really had to do was remove the holder, buy a new one, and use their screws to screw in the new holder, the holster, that keeps it, in the cabinet. And so we have a fire extinguisher. My dad's the kind of person, he would have lived in this house for decades and just not had a fire extinguisher. So anyway, fire safety has always been very important to me, as you well know. And that fire at the apartment has only made me more obsessive about it. So anyway, I'd like to unbox a few things in this video. One of them, and I gotta be very careful about not showing my address, because I don't want you to know where I live. If you do know where I live, just don't post it, because I highly doubt that's the case. But I got another package from AliExpress, and I'm not gonna show the whole thing, but it's just this black package that I've been waiting to unbox for days. And what it is, let's see, I wasn't going to buy this. You know, they know exactly what to show me at the last minute. I bought something from a seller. You see, it's all packaged nicely. And one of the other things, it's like they know exactly what to show me. More things from the same seller. And, let's see, it takes forever to unbox these. But it's a little doll. It's like a little brother of this doll. You see these dolls of the world? Well, that could be her little baby brother. And I'm going to put him on display somewhere. And so, you know, I just like those kinds of dolls. So that's, you know, that's the item from AliExpress, and it's relatively cheap because it isn't big. Let's see, the next item, and this ought to be very quick because it's already open. Have to be very careful not to show my address or even the label, because you could possibly barcode it somehow and figure out where it was going to. But from eBay, I swore against this item. I wasn't going to buy it. Had it watch listed. See, that's the danger in watch listing items. Well, I thought this would quench my thirst for having a little boy soft doll like this. But unfortunately, I had watch listed this Ricky doll, and I kept them in my watch list for the longest time. But then the seller offered me a lower price. So what do you think I did? Do you honestly think I could just walk away from that and say, nope, I don't want that item? Well, I bought this doll for a few dollars cheaper. And so I now have a blonde hair, brown-eyed girl and brown hair, blue-eyed boy of the Playground Kids. You see? He's got the red shirt with purple piping. Oh my gosh. How weird is that? A boy with purple in the 80s and 90s. And he's got pink socks of all things. So he's clearly not a manly man in the making. Not at all, and he's not all boy. But I'm just happy to have some kind of a boy. The one and only boy in the group. The token boy. And so he's got brown hair, blue eyes, and freckles. And the reason I just couldn't resist having one, well, other than he's the only boy, and he's the polar opposite of the girl. You know, she's light hair, dark-eyed, and he's dark hair, light-eyed. But he reminds me of a purchase that, something I was never able to get when I was a child. and of course, you know, I have the other dolls. I have Archie and Florence, and let's see, her name is Abby, but I want to call him Buddy, and this boy is Sam, or I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but so one thing I never had as a child that I always should have had or would have liked to have had, but really and truly, by the time I got to thinking about it, obviously I was too big or too old, and they were no longer making them. Well, way back, I want to say the late 80s on into the early 90s, there were these, I think it's Play School, and there were other companies that had a similar one, but the My Buddy and Kid Sister dolls, they were about 2 feet tall, and I had some rag dolls about that size. But my cousins had buddy and sister dolls. You know, pretty much all my cousins, and including my little sister, she had a blonde one, you know, which was totally inappropriate, considering how dark, I mean, her hair is even darker than mine. And her eyes are basically black. So she was given a blonde hair, blue-eyed kid sister doll. And I wouldn't say that I was jealous of the doll per se because I had big rag dolls like that. So if the doll's maybe a little shy of 2 feet, it's on, I guess you could say a half scale or a 2/3 scale because a real child might be 3 feet tall. And so, my boy cousins had buddy dolls with this coloration, brown hair, blue eyes, and freckles. And my sister had a blonde hair, blue eyed kid sister doll. But I never had any such dolls at all when I was, the right age to play with them or whatnot. And I think my sister's doll ended up being sold at a garage sale, and my cousins ended up passing theirs down to their own kids. Well, my dream, and I've toyed with this idea for many years, my dream had always been to order one through eBay, one of each. Okay? Now, the hard part, well, two things, or actually more than two things, make that a very difficult choice, more difficult than these other choices. Number one, the shipping is ridiculous, because obviously we're talking about a huge item compared to these kind of dolls. The shipping, Number two, the fact that, well, I don't really have much room for such a doll. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no use for something that's that big. You know what I'm saying? It's not a good collector's item. And I don't really have kids that are wanting to play with such an item. So what would be the use of a stupid, ridiculously big doll with soft hands that look more like gloves? And another thing is that I would have to choose between some options that I didn't really know about at the time. Like, my little sister had the blonde girl. Not because that was the only one in existence, but because that's just what my uncle happened to buy. I guess that's just all they had at the time at that store. But what I've found out is that there were a couple variations. The buddy dolls, although they wore pretty much the same clothing, they could have brown hair or they could have blonde hair. And I think there may have even been a redhead version later on. And, of course, an ethnic version that looked more Hispanic but was supposed to be black. For obvious reasons, that one would be out. But then the same thing was true of the kid sister dolls, in that although the blonde may have been the most popular, there was also a brunette with the coloration more like the buddy dolls. And then there were other slight variations like redheads and, of course, ethnic dolls. So there was a little bit of variation, and there were different versions in different outfits. And some of them had the shoes that were part of the body, and some of them had the shoes that could come off of their bare feet, which were ugly like their hands. They weren't plastic or vinyl like the face. So, because I would never want to have a buddy doll, would never have any use for such dolls, what would be the point? Collector's items are smaller. I'm not really into half-scale dolls or 2/3 scale dolls. That would be like having an adult doll that's about 4 feet or so. 3 to 4 feet. And that would be big. So, it's just kind of neither here nor there. So, I decided I'm never going to get such a doll. And instead, the only thing I like about the doll is that the face is kind of cute. I like those fish eyes, and I like the little mouth. It looks like a Cabbage Patch with real hair. And so what I decided was that these little dolls, they're almost like a 1/6 scale version of a My Buddy doll. And their hands, look more realistic, like their face. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's like a collector's buddy doll almost. And so that's why I want to name him Buddy. And the reason I was thinking about those dolls is because this house just magically brings me back to the 80s. Just something about this house. There's just certain things, certain features in this house that were pretty much only done in the 80s, plus minus the late 70s and early 90s, so approximately the 80s. You know, certain types of light switch, certain, you know, smoke alarms, certain fixtures and features of this house, you know, that, and of course there's no point in undoing such things and trying to replace them when they work just fine like they are. But there's just something about this house that magically transports me to my childhood in the 80s. And in the 80s is when Buddy and Kid Sister dolls were popular, and these came out around 1990, so not long afterward. And so, you know, rather than try to chase that dream of having a Buddy doll, which I've talked about the issues that it would have, you know, being too big, too expensive, not knowing how to store it, where to put it, unnecessary, ugly hands, not able to decide between the different variations, you know what I'm saying. And of course, getting two that match in some way, you know what I'm saying? Like if I were to get, you know, let's say I got a good deal on a Buddy doll that can go barefoot, but then the best deal I could get on the sister doll might not, you know what I'm saying, or vice versa. So they might be mismatched. And I may not like what I have, and I might end up buying additional dolls and spending more money, and then it's like, what the hell am I going to do? You know, when I think I get the best deal ever on a doll, and then I notice that it's all stained up or something. So anyway, rather than try to chase that, I figured, you know, might as well pay what I have to pay for this doll. And I want to call him Buddy, you know, just to feel like I have a Buddy doll in a different form. And so when this house transports me to the 80s or around the 80s, and I feel the sense of anger about not having such a doll in my actual childhood, I can look at this doll as well as this one, you know, and this one, and think of them as my alternative to having such a doll. You know what I'm saying? They have a lot of the features that I like, you know, the look and all that, without being a Buddy doll. So I'll go ahead and post this video.